Hello, it's my great pleasure to give a presentation, and my name is Zhang Ruichen, and my another partner, her name is Bi Yuan, and we are the students of the Sapienza Universidad di Roma. And the title of our essay is Approaching the European Union Directive on Unfair Terms in Consumer Contracts through a lens of the principle of good faith. So now let's begin our presentation. And in my paper, the structure is very clear and divided into three parts. The first part is the introduction, and the second part is the principle of good faith in the context of unfair terms. And this part, we will just explore the specific meaning, the legal context, explore the meaning of the good faith principle, and try to discover some real meanings in the judicial practice and watch how it develops. And the second, we just want to look more deeply about the foundation of this principle and try to support another angle as the market values. And now it's obvious that European Union Directive on Fair Terms in Consumer Contract is a very important directive, and it has a very significant impact. It marks the initial development of EU law in national contract law considerations, and several member states possess various laws addressing unfair contract terms, leading to device control methods. And its purpose is very clear. It wants to establish minimum consumer rights in the European Union and fostering confidence in the market and emphasizing its recital. And what we can learn from it is what's the direct purpose and what the aims and the relationship between the member states and the European Union gives the specific meaning of the directive, and the understanding of its goals is very important to try to understand the specific articles. And obviously, it highlights the protective framework reserves around the consumer's weaker position compared to the seller, and concerning the bargaining power and knowledge. Obviously, we know the civil law, just like civil code, talk about the equal parties and that contract and tort law, but the consumer law is just based on the equal bargaining power, just like one is the operator and one the consumer, and it's just all the law and all the foundation law just developed on this basis. So it's very important to watch out some significant provisions in this directive, such as what's the definition of the unfair terms and what's the criteria for assessing unfairness. Just like Article 3 states that an unfair contract terms not negotiating individually is one that creates a significant imbalance in parties' rights and obligations on the contract, harming the consumer and violating good faith. And some criterion can help us to figure out what is unfairness, such as notable imbalance in rights and obligations, consumer detriment, and the absence of good faith. And obviously, it's just recommend the principle of good faith, and the principle of good faith is widely referred to in EU as well as in court legislation, and it is widely conceptual in different countries and has different meanings. The concentration on this, the principle of good faith, is what the debates were focused, and because it is a core theory in many countries, civil code, so how to interpret it, how to look at it, how to give its new meaning in this directive cause a lot of problems. And obviously, good faith and fair dealing means standard of conduct by honestly, openness, and consideration for the interests of the other party, the transaction and the relation in question. And this definition also shows that the principle of good faith is a principle of solidarity. Unlike parties' own interests, which are pursued in international public contract or public good faith, requires consideration of the interests of the transaction as well as the relation in question. In the field of the doctrine, distinction you are made between the subjective and objective concepts of the principle of good faith. And the former decides a manner state of particular person, while later refers to a necessary standard of conduct. And in conclusion, legal writers refer to three basic vocations. Good faith may help to interpret and apply the written law and may blend the justice provisions where lines become visible and may in some cases even recalibrate values embedded in the law. And some here's a mentions that it causes a lot of debate because, as we mentioned before, different countries have different meanings, just like Germany, Italy, and France. They also viewed it from different perspective, but it seems this directive has a more broad ambitious is one to define how is a good faith principle. So how to just view the good faith principle just from the what that means from the provision, we cannot watch it quickly and just watch the purpose of the directive, we cannot develop it carefully. So the next step is just to dip into the cases. And obviously, it can be divided into the two stages. In the first stage, just like several cases, called adopts and want to just ask the exact boundary of the good faith principle, because we know the basic foundation of the directive is the consumer and operator is in equal in bargaining power, and it wants to know how to just the law intervention of the law, the exact boundary can be found. Which boundary? The court must ask this question. But contrary to what the court just push very further into the cases before in this important construction principle, and the judge court's attitude just lets to every state to decide what is the good faith principle. But in any case, the explanation given by the state is not just satisfactory. The use and definition of principle is an important reason why scholars have previously argued that the directive goes to the heart of the contract law and facilitate the process of European private contract integration. As just like we mentioned before, what the directive tries to express is a huge ambitions, but obviously from the case law, from provision, from the purpose, it's very contradict and cannot realize what the goals if based on the traditional direction. So the directive had to give a specific direction. Yes, just as we mentioned before, the specific is that the directive has a traditional be considered to have requires. And in following this paper, we will detail two jurisprudential perspectives on directives, noting that the later is more appropriate. That's what we emphasize more often is the inequality of bargaining power. And according to the direct practice, the question of the specific provisions and what's the purpose, it's mentioned in the reciter. We also know it cannot achieve its the goals it deserved. So we must maybe focus on another perspective, the market value focus, and obviously shifting perspective on protection, because obviously we know the standard contract is a contract that from the industry revolution to the times we had, and it is very necessary for our society because it reduces a lot of cost. And obviously in the legal times we already talked about this to how to regulate this, but we cannot ignore its economic meaning. And from this perspective, if the consumer cannot check it very carefully and the operator has no incentive to just develop a good standard contract because of they have no incentive to do this. So it's what the third party should intervene into. That's what the state and what the law should play a role into. It gives the operator some incentives to achieve what is a good contract? What should you balance the rights between you and the consumer? And that's what the state exists. And if we focus on this, and it's I think it's a perfect explanation of why the law should intervene in this field, and it didn't need to specify what is the good consumer, or it just say, okay, depends on what the national legislation should explain it carefully, but I only point out it should be regulated by a third party. So, and that's what I express in my conclusion. And that's references of my article. And I want to say thank you very much. And I know it's disadvantages in these research fields. And I also know something field to improve because we are in the digital area. And that's very important things to handle the inconsistency between these directives and between the European Unions and the member states. And from this way, if we just try to view a different perspective, and we can get a very new conclusion to handle some new challenges. Thank you very much.